Welcome back to Tennessee Frugal Craftsman. It's a Monday, October the 3rd. I wanted to explain how I did my roof jacks. There were some questions that arose as I was doing this about how I am actually attaching my roof jacks. This is a fairly straightforward process, especially on steep roofs. And so I'm going to take you up on the roof and I'm going to show you how I do it and how easy it is to work with them. Try to do this with one hand. Hope I won't fall off. All right. You actually see here, it looks like this is actually attached to the roof itself, when in essence it is actually attached up underneath the shingle. So if you'll notice, you just kind of lift the shingle here. Now these have been attached now since Saturday, so you don't want to leave them too long. But let me just lift this here for you. And you'll see right here I've got two nails, and this plate, this metal plate, is actually attached, nailed to this, and that's, you can actually see the nails sticking up here. There's one there and one over there. So I'll take one off here. You see if I can set this up. Hopefully my camera doesn't fall. Okay, let me just slide that back. Okay, I'll show you what I'm doing here. So I lift this up and I just put my pry bar in underneath the nail. It's underneath the piece of metal. Pull the nail out. Do the other one. You want to save the nails. Okay, so now it's out. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift it back up, and I'll come over and get the camera so you can see this up close. Sorry, I should have had someone filming this for me. But you can see I put the nails right back in where they came out. So they're right in the back in the same holes. Now all I'm going to do, I really can't do this with two hands, but I'm going to go in there, just lift the shingle, and I'm going to nail this down with my hammer. Sorry, this is very hard with one. So they're going right back in the same holes. Sorry, I got to drop my pinch bar. It's going to be in the way. Now you have to be careful not to hit the edges of your shingles. But now that I'm done, those nails are now going to be underneath this. This is going to seal back down, and you'll never see it. So I've got a couple more to do. Now I decided to add after I'd finished that video, so I'm going to try to stick this in the middle of the video that you're watching. I'm down on the ground now, and I wanted to do a close-up of what I've actually done here. The metal that I used, as you can see, this is about 3.5–4 inches wide. It is a heavy metal, and I've taken it up onto here. Put 4 nails. You could use screws in this, but I just use roof nails. And as I said, you can see where they came out through here. And I just took some of this is my zip tape. I just wanted to keep this from tearing into the shingles. This won't hurt the shingles. It's nice and smooth because this is plain lumber. But this here, I didn't want these edges to catch, so what I did is I put some zip tape on it just to cover everything over. And then as you can see here, this is what goes up underneath the shingle, and that's where I nail. So I could actually drive nails through this, and so I just use the holes over and over again when I'm using these jacks. And so You can use them one time or you can use them multiple times. These I'll stick around, use them for the house eventually, because most of the house is going to be 9, 10, 12 pitch. And as you can see here, I'm not overly concerned about, you know, getting, you know, brackets here. You could, if you were doing these long term, if I was using these every day, I'd probably take a little bit more time. But this takes maybe 10 minutes or so to build one of these, 10 or 15 minutes. And this here, what I actually do is after I've cut this angle on the slope of the roof, so this is the 912, I actually came around here, before I put this metal on, I actually put 2 long screws through into this piece here. So this is screwed to that, and I offset my screws into the piece like here and in over here, so if you put 2 lined up, you can actually split this. And so one of the better ways, I just was using scrap here, pine, but you could use plywood. Plywood won't split like that. And then over here, as you can see, I just, whatever the angle was, I just put my, this is not even super square, but I just got it enough, something that would take the weight here, and I just kind of scribed it and put a screw in through this way, screw up in that way, and like I said, that'll hold everything I'm doing. So that's kind of a close-up of what they are. And like I said, literally, the only thing I really took measurements on was put the angle on it. Now, one last thing, the metal that I used, I don't suggest you using that light gauge flashing that you can get at Lowe's and stuff. You know what will work? Of course, I'm the Tennessee Frugal Craftsman, so I actually salvaged this off my property. This was an old piece of slide, and so this is a fairly thick gauge sheet metal, and so this worked really well. I just cut about a couple feet off of it and made 2 sets of roof jacks. So I'll keep this around and use it when I start doing the house. Sorry, that's making an awful noise. Use it when you're doing the house, or use it when I'm doing the house. Now, if you're looking for, you know, you don't have something like that around, I've used something like a tin can. So here's a case, you know, there's a bean can. I'm using it for my, you know, soaking my paintbrush in. But if you split that can down, kind of cut the bottom out, top out, and then split the can, you can actually, that's a heavy enough gauge metal right there that will also work. You could probably get two metal brackets out of just like a bean can. They're long enough. Those bean cans are, well, what, 7 inches tall. That's all you need. You only need about, you know, 2 inches or so, 3 inches up from the bottom, from the top of your roof jack to go up in underneath the shingle to nail. And so, if that helps you, you can take it for what it's worth. So, as I said, I'm trying to do it safely, but at the same time effectively. And so, hopefully that will help you. So those roof jacks, what you do is you take the angle of your roof. This case, I guesstimated, I was thinking it was around 9/12. This is actually closer probably to an 8.5, 12, maybe even an 8/12 pitch. So this one is kind of angled in a bit, kind of up on the back end. It should be down a little bit more level, like this here, which is more level. This is a 24/12 pitch. But if you're not sure of the angle of your roof, just take a 2-foot level, set it on the roof, let it level out, and where it levels, then what you do is you measure down from the base of the level down to the roof. And so say here, if I go 2 feet out, and at the end of the 2-foot level I measure down, and it's 16 inches, that means that's a 8/12. So you divide it by 2. If you have a foot level and you come out and measure down, it should be 8. That would be how you get your 8/12. And then you just take your square and you transfer it onto to the angle of that 2x4 right there. And all I do is just put it on a flat piece of board, and I put a little support underneath. It doesn't have to be fancy. I mean, it's screwed together, but the strength of a roof jack is not its kind of its sideways strength or whatnot. It's the downward force that you put on it. And those nails, most of the weight is actually resting on the roof. So those, I have, in this case, I'm doing 4 hardwood 2x4s. These are actually literally 2x4 hardwood mostly. but the most of the weight is actually being pushed down on the flat of the roof. And so the shear off strength of 2 roofing nails, if you go right into solid wood, I mean, they will take hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pounds. I've never had one shear off. I have had one release or let go because I didn't have the nails actually in a piece of wood, a solid piece of wood, like in a crack or something. So you want to make sure that you're nailing actually into a piece of wood. But if you do that, those roof jacks will actually hold everything that you need, and all you do is you put them on as you're roofing up. So I roofed from this section up to there, put my roof jack on, and then I could still reach from down here and put another couple runs on, and that allowed me to get up away from my roof jack a bit. And then when I put my plywood or planks across, I'm starting up like on the 3rd row, so I don't have to squat down so much and get this row straight. And so that's the easiest way to do these steep pitched roofs. I know some people tie off and use cables and stuff and whatnot, and they attach to the peak. That will work too, but I've never used those types of things and ropes and whatnot. I find this is a lot more freeing and liberating to actually get around it. You have to be careful because you're up, I mean, I'm up here 20 feet plus, but you have to be careful. But other than that, if you use roof jacks, that's the answer, because you can shingle across any length of a roof as long as you just keep adding roof jacks clear across about every 7 feet or so or whatever. I'm using 8-foot pieces of 2x4, so I went about 6.5 feet between them. That gives lots of support. And if you're using even like a 2x12 or 2x10, 2x8, that's fine. You just want to make sure that you have good lumber that you're using. You don't want something that's going to break on you, because where they're going to fail is if you break in the middle, if you break a plank or something in the middle. Now the other thing I wanted to show you while I'm up here is what to do on these steep pitched parts of where two different pitches intersect. I'm going to show you kind of the nature of what I have here. You can see all the way along where this peak, or this 812 goes down to a 2412, my shingles are actually out over probably 1.5 inches. It's just the way this worked out. And I mentioned on the end of my last video that I had actually, instead of having a, pull this down here, instead of having a 5.5 inch exposure, I guess they're about 5.5, I went down to 5 to give me a little bit more so it'll bend over. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait till tomorrow morning when it's warm, or tomorrow afternoon. And this is the shady side, but hopefully, if you know the weather, this is harder in the colder weather, but wait for the sun to heat up this roof, because it's a charcoal roof, so it'll absorb a lot of heat. And when I do, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bend this down and stick the tar, and as I do, I'm actually going to take my little brad nailer with about 1.25 inch brads, and I'm going to put one here and one here. And then this is a double. You can see this architectural shingle, it's 2 thicknesses. Here is single, so I probably won't put any here because that doesn't have a lot of strength there. So I put a couple there, bend this down, then go to the next double, put a couple more. And what that will do, those brads, they won't leak because they're so small and they stay right in the wood. Usually a nail is not what causes a leak in a roof. What causes a leak in the roof is a crack in the shingles or something, and where it's getting in behind the shingles themselves. Now if you have a very loose nail and it's exposed to the elements, then over time, yes, that could leak. But for the most part, yeah, you're not going to get a leak on a little brad. So I go right along, just tack that down. Now some people tar it. The tar on these particular shingles are very, very sticky. I mean, when it's hot, and I've done this before, when it's hot, I've stuck my hand on the tar part of the shingle, or just set my my square down. My square is hot or something like that I'm using for squaring my shingles, and it'll stick there immediately. And so the tar is very good that's on these that are coming from the factory. It just, you have to be careful when you're doing something like this, where you're bending the shingle over, and make sure that it gets down. But once that's nailed down, the tar sticks and the sun gets on it, that shingle will bake. And I'll show you on the other side. I've already done the other side, so you give me a second. So again, you can see here I've got I'm going to leave these 2 sets of scaffolding up for tonight because I want to come back in the morning when it's hotter to seal down those other shingles. But I did this side last Friday, I think, or last Thursday, and you can see I went along and I pulled it all down, and I just used the brads because this side gets the sun and it was really hot. And you can look up there and those shingles are not sticking up. They're actually all cemented down now. Now I'm sure if I went up there with the hammer or something, or a pry bar, I could lift them, but over the next several weeks in the sun, they'll bake right down. And so that's kind of a short lesson on, doing roof jacks and on the scaffolding end, and also putting getting those different pitches to get the roof, get the shingles to lay down. Some people just leave them and let the sun do it, but if you get a good wind before they stick, you can actually have shingles that break. And so that's your lesson for me today, Tennessee Frugal Craftsman. So I hope that tomorrow I'm going to be working on the front of this building. I'll just come around here and show you. My plan is to do the man door up there and try to get a lot of the trims around the doors and the windows and up around here, get it all ready for siding. And so if I can get this trimmed, get the trim and door built tomorrow, I'll be happy. I'm not sure whether I'll get it all done, but that's what I'm going to be working on. And so I'll try to film a little bit of that for next time. Until then, as always, thank you for joining me from the Tennessee Frugal Craftsman. And if you would do me the service and like and subscribe, I really appreciate it. I'm getting closer to the 1,000 subscribers that I need to go monetized, and so if you would help me, I'd really appreciate it. I think I'm running right around in the low 600s right now, and I know it's one of those things I just started doing, so it's going to take a while. But anyway, as always, I appreciate you joining me, and so until next time, you have a great day.